Today on What's in the Box, we're going to be talking about Bigfoot movies. Specifically, we're going to be talking about The Legend of Boggy Creek and several other films, so stick around. Hello and welcome to What's in the Box. I'm your host, Thomas Marcum, and today we are going to talk about some Bigfoot movies. The first film I want to talk about is The Legend of Boggy Creek. This was actually released in 1972. It was probably one of the most famous Bigfoot films. Most people reference it when we're talking about Bigfoot films, so it's only fitting that we start with that today. For those who don't know, The Legend of Boggy Creek is based on sightings around Folk, Arkansas in the 1950s. The residents had been seeing this creature, and it had been reported numerous times. In the film, actually, they use people who were actual witnesses. There's also some actors, of course, and there's segments that are, I guess, reenacted or maybe based on stories. But there's actually also some people who actually seen the creature. And it was actually directed by Charles B. Pierce, which those who may not know, Charles Pierce actually done quite a few movies, directed quite a few movies. Several movies that were actually really good. Like one of my favorites was The Town That Dreaded Sundown. He actually was the director on that, which was an excellent film. But The Legend of Boggy Creek, for many years, it's not been available in a good quality copy of it. It was always a bootleg copy or real grainy, and it was kind of difficult to watch because the quality was just so bad. And I know a lot of people had numerous bootleg. We call them bootleg, which at the time they were legal because the copyright was kind of in influx. They didn't know who owned the copyright and that type of thing. It expired. And anyways, there was bad copies of it being sold on eBay and Amazon and places like that, and about any store you go to. But over the course of several years, this film had been produced by a lot of different people. It is on YouTube and things like that. But now, more recently, let me get to my notes here. More recently, Charles B. Pierce's daughter, Pamela Pierce Barcelou, she was able to obtain the rights to this film, her father's film. And we actually did a small interview with her on our website, thecryptocrew.com. It's on there. You can probably just search her name or Legend of Boggy Creek and find it. And during the interview, of course, we wanted to ask her about how she got the rights to the film and things like that. And from my understanding from the interview, her father, or not her, but her father and another man had actually done the film, but the other man actually owned all the rights to it. And they had a little bit of falling out there, and then years later they kind of reconciled, and Charles tried to get the rights back, and ultimately Charles passed away before he could actually secure the rights back to the film. So a few years later, his daughter Pamela actually starts the process again to get the rights to the film, and ultimately she is successful at doing that. So, well, here's where the story gets a little bit better. Pamela, she is able to secure the rights to the film, ownership of the film, and she actually does a 4K transfer of the film. She gets this guy used to work at Eastman Kodak, and to do a 4K transfer of the film. And of course, I'm sure this process takes a very long time. During the interview, she told us that the process of turning it to 4K requires each frame of the film to be scanned 4,000 times. So that's each frame. If you just, for instance, if you got a film that's 30 frames per second, think how long that's going to take to scan each frame for 1 second of film. So it's kind of interesting that the whole process, and it took a long time. But I'm happy to say that the actual film in 4K is released now. I recently purchased it on Blu-ray off of eBay. You can find it on eBay, or you can buy it off, I think it's boggycreek.com or something like that. I think they got it for sale on there, but you can find it on eBay. Pamela is actually selling it on eBay, and I watched it recently. It's like watching a whole new film. The presentation and the quality is just phenomenal compared to what you've seen in the past. It's a very good film, and like I say, it's based on actual sightings, which is really interesting. But if you don't have a copy of this right now, it'd be a good time to get it. When I purchased it off eBay, you get a DVD, a normal DVD, regular DVD, and a Blu-ray DVD for like, I think it was $29 or something. But it's very good, very professionally done. It's if you're if you like Bigfoot stuff and Bigfoot films, it's a very good collectible to have, in my opinion, because it is a 4K transfer, and you're not going to find better quality anywhere. But like I say, you can get it on eBay. I don't know if it's available on Amazon or not as far as purchasing. I don't think it's on Amazon Prime or anything like that. So, but you can purchase the DVD. But here's another little thing I wanted to throw out there at you. Let me get back to my notes. What some people may not realize was that there was a actual Boggy Creek 2 filmed. It's actually Boggy Creek 2, and the legend continues, back in 1984, and it was also directed by Charles Pierce. Now, Boggy Creek 2 was a actual maybe a made up type story. It wasn't actually. Why it was originally based on the original Boggy Creek and sightings. This one here is more of just an actual movie. Like I say, it was directed by Charles B. Pearson. He also starred in the movie, and Chuck Pierce Jr. and Pam was in it in a brief scene in the water scene, swimming hole scene. But it's a continuation of the story. What it kind of reminds me of, if you ever watched the original Blair Witch, which is a found footage type thing, which a lot of people at the time thought it was real. Then if you watched Blair Witch 2 movie, it's actually a actual movie, not just a found footage or a documentary type style, which I found Blair Witch 2 much better. But anyways, back to Boggy Creek 2 and the legend continues. This is also goes about the people seeing the creature, and in this film you actually see the Bigfoot creature a lot, and there's a lot of scenes where you see it walking away, or hid in the small one walking away around the barn. And what the premise of the story is a doctor. He gets a call from the sheriff and about a creature. So he takes a couple of his students, and they go to camp out and investigate the sightings of this creature, hoping to document a new species. While in parts of the film, the acting's not the best, but overall it's good. It's a good watch. It's kind of at times it's almost like a horror movie, kind of, in a way. There's a few scenes where the Bigfoot is swimming underwater and like attacking things that's on top of the water. So it's kind of interesting. Then at one part of the film, there's a guy who's actually got the small one, and he caught it in a trap, in a snap trap on his foot, and he's got it in the back of a building. And so So the adult Bigfoot is trying to retrieve the smaller Bigfoot. And this is kind of the climactic of the film. It's a good watch, and the guy is setting fires, piling up brush around his house to keep the big adult Bigfoot away. And it comes a big storm, and the fires go out. It's really kind of a good little film. And that was a Charles B. Pierce film that many people may not realize that he actually directed that one too. He'd actually done a lot of different things. And in this one here, he also, of course, starred in it. And of course, they all take place in Arkansas. Another film that I really like is which was not done by Charles Pierce. It was a film called Something in the Woods. It was done by David Ford, and the Something in the Woods follows the story of the Hartman family, and it takes place in the 1960s in northeast Texas. And this is actually based on real sightings as well. There's several good scenes in this that I really feel like this is probably this is probably the number one or number two best Bigfoot movie I've ever seen. And it's not a documentary; it's actually a storytelling movie. The father, which is played by David Ford, who also directed, he works for a logging company, and his wife and kid is at home. They live in a kind of a isolated type area, and the little boy actually sees the creature, I think, first. But there's several good scenes in this, a lot of intense scenes in it. I was actually talking to David Ford just a few days ago because the movie is now hard to get. You can still get it on DVD off of Amazon, which I do have it on DVD. But for a long time it was available on several different streaming services. Well, now it's very hard to find on any streaming services. So I talked to David because I know him a little bit. We've talked a few times, and we both have an interest in Bigfoot. And I was trying to find out where people could actually go view the film at. And David said right now that the film is being repackaged, I guess with artwork or whatever, and it's going to be kind of like a re-release of it. And so it's right now the only way you can get it is through a DVD. It's not actually on a streaming service at this time. So best I can tell you is probably get it, on DVD, or if a friend has it or something, borrow it off of them, because you can't find it anywhere. And it's a very good film, very well shot and very well acted, and just overall good Bigfoot film. There's other Bigfoot films that are people like that I didn't really care a whole lot for. This one here to me is a Bigfoot film that people who research Bigfoot would enjoy. David is actually doing got another movie coming out that's based on Bigfoot called Man vs. Legend. Of course, that's not out yet, but he's still working on it, and it looks real promising too. I've watched several of David's films, and I think he does real good work. Seems like a real nice guy. But if you've not watched Something in the Woods, that's something that you could maybe try to look up and watch. One interesting fact about Something in the Woods, I bought the film because I liked the way it looked. I thought I'd check it out, and at the time I didn't even know David. So I'm sitting and watching the film, and there's a scene where it shows a deer walking off into the woods, and I didn't even know it was in there. But I was watching this film, and this scene comes up where the deer is walking in the woods, and I'm like, hey, I shot that. So it's actually a little piece of footage that I shot, I don't know, a few years ago. When I'm out in the woods, or even when I'm making films myself, I try to take some footage and sell stock footage online. So I'd put this little clip up of a deer walking in the woods that I'd filmed. And unbeknownst to me, David and them had actually purchased the film, the little clip, the stock footage, and used it in the film. So that was a pleasant surprise to me, even though I wasn't directly involved in the making of this film. I have a little clip in it that I actually shot that was just so random that that it was in there, but I'm glad it is, because it's one of my favorite films, and that has nothing to do with me liking the film. If that hadn't been in there, I'd still like the film. It's really a good film. But that's I'm glad it was able to use it. If I knew, if I know David was going to use that, I would have let him use it, just for maybe crediting the film or something. But he had purchased it, and I didn't even know it was in there. And it was kind of a shock to me, but it was a pleasant shock. So I'll take it. Okay, let's move on to maybe a couple other films that are good Bigfoot films. Exist by director Eduardo Sanchez, who you might know from the Blair Witch Project. He actually made a alien film several years ago that I thought was really good. But this is actually, the Exist is actually a real good film, but it's more of the monstrous Bigfoot type film. So it's about people that go camping, and it becomes a real nightmare. So it's really a good film. That's one I could probably recommend, that if you like Bigfoot films, that's a good one to watch. Letters from the Big Man, which is actually a pretty good film. It's very slow moving though. There's not a whole lot of action in it, but it's actually a pretty good film. A lot of people like it, so I could recommend that one, of course. And a lot of people like Willow Creek. I wasn't a big fan of the film Willow Creek. A lot of people like it. I kind of felt like it was at times making fun of the subject, so it's more of a documentary style anyways. I mean, it's more documentary film. Legend of Boggy Creek is a storytelling documentary type film. Boggy Creek 2, which is straight on just a movie, which I enjoyed it, and my bird just went off. And Something in the Woods is an excellent film. Exist is a good film, and these are all actual films. I mean, we could talk about documentaries, but there's so many of those. Even some of mine. Letters from the Big Man's a pretty decent film. It's a little bit slow moving, but I enjoyed it. And of course, a lot of the favorites is Harry and Henderson, even though it's kind of a goofy family comedy type film. It's still entertaining. But send us a message or contact us. Let us know what some of your favorite Bigfoot films are. Maybe to get played on the air, your film will. But I found out that seems like that Amazon Prime has the largest volume of Bigfoot, UFO, and cryptid related films and documentaries. There's quite a few on Tubi TV, and my bird's getting excited over there. He likes for me to talk about TV, I guess. Anyways, but Tubi TV, which is totally free, has quite a few films on it like that too. Netflix doesn't have very many Bigfoot films or documentaries, either one. I have a few, but not many. But that's some of my favorite films today, that I've talked about today. That's some of the ones that I really like. If you've got some that you like, send us a message, and maybe we could form us a top 5 or a top 10 list. I know a few years ago, well, more than that, probably 5 years ago, I actually did a top 5 Bigfoot films, and it was just my personal opinion. And some people hated my list, and some of them jumped onto me because I didn't include Boggy Creek. But at the time, every version I'd ever seen of Boggy Creek there was very degraded quality, and it was very hard to watch because it was so dark, you couldn't see anything. And so, but now, if I went back and did that list over, I would definitely include it because I've watched the 4K version, which is really updated. You can see things, you can see what's going on. And I really like Charles Pierce's way of telling the story. I actually watched another one of his films last night, which is a psychological thriller type film about some people who move into a house. But unbeknownst to them, previously there had been some murders in the house and stuff like that, and so they're kind of terrorized. It's actually a pretty good little film called Evictors or something like that. Evictors. very interesting film. But back to the Bigfoot films. I like a good Bigfoot film. Like I say, Something in the Woods is probably my favorite. But what's your favorite? Send us a message and let us know what your favorite is. Maybe in the future I can maybe get some of these guys to come on and do a little Q&A with us about their film and the process. I know, as a person who makes films myself, I know the process of making a film or even writing a book is at times very, very difficult. And then when you put out something that maybe is not well received, it makes you question, why am I doing this? But in the end, you really love it, whether other people do or not. I've got one film in particular that I felt I was very satisfied with how the film turned out, because it had the feel that I wanted. I wanted the 80s feel. It was a paranormal documentary. I wanted an 80s scary type feel to it, and it has that to me. But a lot of people didn't like it and said it was over edited and things like that. But that's okay. Some people liked it. So you're always going to have varying opinions on movies and books and things like that. I guess that's what makes us all unique. But I guess I'll close out the show for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about some of these Bigfoot movies, some of my favorite Bigfoot movies, and probably my least favorite Bigfoot movie that I mentioned today was Willow Creek. Like I said, it was, even though it's kind of a documentary. The first part of it was kind of a documentary, and then it kind of spiraled. I don't know. I just felt like it's kind of made fun of the subject, which I don't want to run nobody down. I know there's a lot of work goes into that kind of stuff, but I feel like there's better films out there for you to watch, like Exist or Something in the Woods or Boggy Creek 1 and 2, and those are good films. So they're good films for people who like Bigfoot. Now, if you're a Bigfoot researcher, you may really, really like them. So I think that plays a part of the level of interest a person has in the subject. For me, I like to see a good quality Bigfoot film, and Something in the Woods delivered on things I like to look for in a film from a researcher standpoint. So, but if you're just a casual person who has a slight interest in Bigfoot, you'll probably like something like Exist better than Something in the Woods, because it's more of a mainstream type movie, mainstream type, excuse me, almost, well, really, it is a horror movie. So, I'll tell you another good one too before I close out. Another film that I really liked was called Hoax. It was available on Amazon Prime. That's a very good Bigfoot movie that has a real good twist at the end. There's parts of it that reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, believe it or not. So that's a good film that you probably need to watch if you're a Bigfoot fan. And I'll tell you one more, Big Legend, another straight on just movie. I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit slow in the start, but once he actually goes back to the woods, it gets much better. It's been a little while since I watched it, so I'll kind of give you a quick rundown. This guy and girl who are in love or go on a camping trip. She disappears. Several years later, he goes back and, or so many months later, he goes and actually tries to find her. I think even in the film, I think he was attacked and spent some time in the hospital or something. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while, but it was a really good film. And the Bigfoot creature in that looked pretty good. The Bigfoot creature in Exist looks good. Something in the Woods, that creature looked well. It looked real good. The costume was done real well in all those films. So if you get a chance, check those out. And if you can, send us a voice message through the site and let us know how you like the film and what your favorite films are. All right, thanks. You guys have a good day. Hey, Thomas here again for What's in the Box. If you have a show idea or you'd just like to leave us a comment, please send us a voice message through the button at the top. Also, we hope you will consider supporting the podcast financially. If not, please just share with your friends. Thanks.